All right, good evening. Hello, everybody. Hey, I'm Sharona. You're watching The Extra Point. We come to you live every Friday night at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We talk AFC South and NFC South. And tonight we're talking Carolina Panthers with some of my favorite people, the guys at Cats Chronicles. And I'm going to bring them in and let them introduce themselves to you individually, and then we'll talk a little bit about the website, and then we'll get started. Anthony, since you're first showing up for me from the left, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, my name's Anthony Dunn.
Now, do you go by Tony? I think I call you Anthony all the time.
I do go by Tony, actually, so that's fine. And I don't know. I sometimes when I feel like I'm trying to be professional, I say Anthony.
Oh, okay, all right.
But I guess I shouldn't be professor when I say this. Professional when I say my name is Tony Dunn. I'm the co-founder of CarolinaCatChronicles.com, a.k.a. the Professor. So I don't know how professional you could be when you have an AKA behind your name, but you know what?
Extremely professional.
I was gonna wear a tie, so.
No. You are perfect, just like you are. I want Tony was so kind to join me for the draft preview show, and everybody loved. I got a lot of good feedback about his Carolina Panthers stuff. So
it was
absolutely
awesome. We had a blast.
All right, Joe, we're gonna let you come in next.
All right, I'm Joe Riollano. I am the other co-founder of Carolina Cat Chronicles. I'm AKA the freaking Puerto Rican. I used to live in Charlotte back when they were granted the team, so I became a fan around that time, and I love talking Carolina Panthers football. That's why I do this.
We need to introduce you to Ralph, who is one of the founders of National Gridiron Network, who produces this show, www.nationalgridironnetwork.com. You and him would get along fabulously, so we need to make that happen.
Yeah,
Ken, you next.
Hi, I'm Ken Dye. I'm with the crew here at Carolina Cat Chronicles. I'm the lead writer and analyst. Twitter handle is Ken_Dye, D-Y-E, and happy to be back with you.
Well, thanks, Ken. Ken has joined me before, too. And, Tony, you are absolutely right. That pre-draft show was tons of fun, and thanks again for doing that. This is obviously the post-draft show, and I've already warned Ken and I had a chance to chat for a few minutes. I already warned him a little bit. You guys know that I am not by any means a Carolina Panthers hater. I have a healthy respect for the team. I love Cam Newton. I love a lot of things about what the Panthers have done, but I gave them a bad draft grade. I said that they were one of the losers in the NFC in terms of their draft. And so just to let you guys know that, I think that there are obviously some high expectations for their first-round draft pick, Kelvin Benjamin, who is a physical freak of an athlete. He is talented, but he has, he's got some issues with his hands, and for me, that's my concern there. So I'm going to start with Ken this time. I'm going to let you guys talk a little bit about that first-round draft pick, and then we'll move on and go through your draft. We'll talk about it in comparison to the NFC South, and then just discuss some draft grades overall in general. So, Ken?
Yeah, I didn't like the pick either with Kelvin Benjamin. It's my philosophy that you need to have a safe pick for your first round pick. You can't miss on a first round pick, and you want your first round pick to be an impact player. And I'm not convinced that Benjamin's going to be either one. You talked about issues with his hands. Well, yeah, he drops the ball, and that's something that's hard to break a player of. There's been NFL stars that have issues with drops. Terrell Owens, Chad Ochocinco / Johnson, whatever. They're two pretty famous receivers, for just dropping easy passes.
Yeah.
And it's just lapse in concentration that you should be able to easily fix, but they can't. So I wonder if the same's going to be the case with Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was having a discussion with someone regarding Kelvin Benjamin pre-draft on a draft show, just talking about prospects. And we were talking about him, and I said, that I had concerns about that. And his response was, "Oh, I know, I love him. He's so talented. He's big. He's strong. Blah 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 blah." But you have to wonder about his hands. But that really is kind of that. A wide receiver has one job and one job to do, and that is to catch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's definitely something that bears watching. Joe, what do you think?
Well, I can speak from experience. In high school and in college, I played receiver, so I have some experience in the matter, and it is all concentration. That's it. He has huge hands, so it's not a problem of the ball not being able to fit there. He has enormous hands, like baseball mitts.
Right, yeah.
So
I remember
that's something that...
How big are they? I don't recall exactly how big they are, but I do remember they were big.
They're over 10 inches.
Yeah, okay.
Big hand.
He can be coached out of that. That is something that they can work on you daily, and they have drills specific to concentration and helping you to focus better. I believe that of all the receivers that came out, his upside is the biggest. I really believe that, but just because of his size.
Yeah.
Across the board, athletically, he may not be the fastest, but 4.6 on the slow side is still fast. You go and race someone that runs a 4.6 40, they're fast. Just because it's slow compared to a guy that runs a 4.3, 4.6 40 is still good speed.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think physically he's a freak. He is definitely, a beast of a guy. Big, tall, athletic, chiseled. He definitely looks, the part of a supreme, superior, elite athlete.
And to be totally open and honest, when we were doing our draft show at CarolinaCatChronicles.com, we were waiting the whole 27 picks before we finally got our pick, and they called his name, and you could just feel the air go out of the room.
Aww.
Because it just wasn't who we were wanting to
Trust me, no air could have gone out of the room any quicker than it did for Tennessee Titans fans. But that's another story. It definitely, though, it fits a need. There's no question whatsoever but that the Panthers had to take a wide receiver. And, I know that wide receiver was a big concern, legitimate concern for their fans. And so in that sense, they gave the fans what they wanted in terms of, we're going to go out and get who we feel to be the best receiver available on the board in the first round, and you gotta give them credit for that, and just you hope that it works out. So, Tony, what do you think?
I'm gonna go the complete opposite direction on this, which is surprising since I was the most upset with the pick. Right? Is that I needed a Valium after that pick was unleashed. And the reason being, for real, is because I've been going crazy for weeks. We do a lot of writing about draft speculation and what the fans want, and everybody had gotten on me about, well, no, Gettleman's going to pick best player available. Gettleman will pick best player available, and then 28 comes, and we pick for need and not best for, it wasn't the BPA pick.
It wasn't the position. Don't you think that there's an argument to be made that at the position, you could not fault them for thinking that he was the best value? Although there were some other guys that I personally liked a little bit better, but just overall.
I wanted us to go cornerback in the first and pick up Bradley Roby, who went right after us, and then I wanted us to to go Allen Robinson in the second, and I thought that would have made sense.
Yeah, I love Allen Robinson.
But here's where though I'm starting to, I guess, temper this, where I go against Ken and where I go against most analysts, is that I think he was a safe pick, and we can talk about that. He's had some problems dropping the ball, but we really haven't seen him play enough to really see it be super habitual.
Then how can that be? I'm sorry.
Okay, and then on top of this is that when I say safe pick, is I don't think he's going to be explosive. He's not going to be Calvin Johnson good, clearly. But when you're that big and you have a quarterback that tends to throw it a bit high, and all you've had is a bunch of scrawny receivers that are soft off the line, now you got a guy that blocks well, that's enormous, he's a big target. How his floor can only be so low with that size. So I think that is you pick the receiver, and you know what? You can put him out there on day one, and he can only be so bad.
Yeah, we almost had an appearance. We almost had an appearance by the puppy dog. Ken, I know that you want to weigh in. Please do come in and weigh in.
Well, I just don't see how you say he's a safe pick when he's a redshirt sophomore, and guys that come in with little experience are receivers. As receivers are guys that just tore up the league, like the Jets' Stephen Hill,
awful.
or who was it? Greg Little. I can't remember if he's with the Eagles.
Well, I don't know how big Greg Little was, but I can tell you that Stephen Hill played for the Jets, correct?
Yeah, he did.
And who threw them the ball? No, I mean that's the most.
3 years later,
that's the most dysfunctional offense. That's the most dysfunctional offense ever. So it's not like you got Cam Newton there and the best defense on the other side. They've been a mess. So
And I will say this too
I think you
about
put him in the end zone and you catch his touchdowns.
I'll say this too about Stephen Hill. In Stephen Hill's defense, and I watched this play go down. He got his bell absolutely rung by Titan safety Michael Griffin on the first series, Game 4 last year. I don't think that he finished that game. In fact, I think that he did not finish the game, and he just wasn't the same after that either. So I think that there's a possibility that he could have a rebound year. But I agree with Tony. Geno Smith had his moments where he showed that he might be an NFL caliber quarterback, but woof, he had some moments where you were like, oh my gosh, the Jets are in trouble.
We were at that
offense we had last year.
Oh, I don't. Well.
Yeah.
Everybody had a more.
I'll give you that.
I think also, I think Ricky Prohl makes a big difference in the development of Kelvin Benjamin. Ricky Prohl, I've said this before, Tony, Ken. Ricky Prohl was a fantastic receiver. He knew the subtle nuances of the game. He was a technician. And those kind of players turn out to be fantastic coaches. And I believe he saw something in Kelvin Benjamin that he was able to convince Dave Gettleman that, look, I can make this guy great. No, he may not be as good as Calvin Johnson, but he will be close. And if there's anybody I want coaching a big, raw receiver like a Kelvin Benjamin, it's Ricky Prohl.
Yeah, I definitely think that he has the ability to, if he can work on his focus and his concentration and cut down on the drops, he's going to be a matchup nightmare because although NFL teams are going more toward the bigger, more physical, cornerback, still he's going to be a lot larger than your average defensive back. So
yeah, there's not too many 240-pound DBs out there.
Yeah. So all right, well let's go ahead and move on to the remainder. Round 2, Coney Ely, a defensive end, a pick that Ken and I talked about a little bit. Could end up being maybe a little bit prophetic. What do you think, Tony? How do you rate Coney Ely?
I think he's a steal at 60. But I will say this is that he, a lot of people had him as a first round draft grade. If he would have gone at 28, I just don't think he's ready to start on day one. So I think that first round draft grade is taking into account some development. He's going to have to hit the weight room. This guy is massive. He's 6'5" or 6'4", and he's 276 pounds. He put on 50 pounds in college.
That is an amazing number. It really is.
He started, he was 215 pounds. I think that he has the potential to be a top pass rusher. They like to talk about his versatility. I don't think he's going to be big and strong enough to play on the inside. I think that what this does is this shows what Carolina's committed to. We're not going to try to blow you up with explosiveness. Is that we're just going to try to blow your quarterback up all day long. Mm-hmm. And we're going to keep cycling defensive ends in there, and we're going to be a nightmare for you to try to get. You're going to have 2 seconds, 3 seconds to get the ball away, and that's it. And so I like this pick. I think it adds a lot of depth. Once again, this is another safe pick. Is that it can only go so wrong. And we kind of took off a pass rusher off the board that maybe some of our division rivals were eyeballing. So I like it. I do like it. We still wanted, everybody was clamoring for an offensive tackle at this point. Everybody was clamoring for potentially another receiver. But word came out today that Morgan Moses isn't going to be starting for the Redskins, or at least I think I saw that on Twitter. And that's the other guy that everybody wanted at 28, and then he's still there at 60, I think. I think he was still there at 60. We passed on him again. Maybe he went a couple.
He went at 66. Morgan Moses went at 66.
So we passed on him twice, and now he's not ready. And Ken has been saying this from day one. He is not a left tackle. He's the right tackle. So I think we made the right pick, particularly since we went wide receiver in the first.
Joe, what do you think?
I would agree. I think it was a great pick at 60. I like the value that he brings there. In the game film that I watched, he was a beast in college. He was tough, and as good as Michael Sam was able to be at Missouri, it was because of Coney Ealy. If Coney Ealy wouldn't have been there, Michael Sam would have been a nobody. He probably wouldn't have gotten drafted.
I think they were a good tandem. I would agree they were a good tandem. I don't know that I would. I think they definitely helped each other out.
I believe when the Panthers do bring Ely in, they're going to kick the Kraken down to tackle, and they'll bring Ely in as defensive end to apply extra heat, because the Kraken can play well from the inside.
Okay. All right. Ken, what about you?
I echo pretty much everything that Tony said. You look at it's funny how Coney Ealy was the better of the two Missouri ends, and by far the least talked about because of Michael Sam and his sexuality. I just got so sick of hearing about it. Like, Michael Sam is the first openly gay draftee. Okay, we got it. They went on for a dang week about it, and it's just shut up. He's not even the best. He's not even the best defensive end on his own team.
Exactly.
That's Ely. Ely, I think, had 9.5 sacks his senior year.
That's the thing about sports now. They you definitely tend to jump on something and talk it to death. So, and since I fear I kind of contribute to that sometimes in a way, but yeah, it did get tiresome after a while, and then, there's such a hubbub made about, so many different things, but if he is able to develop and become a little bit more consistent, I think that he's definitely going to be a good player. Again, I wasn't as high on him as some people, but we don't know what's going to happen with Greg Hardy right now. Could possibly maybe face some penalties for the incident with his girlfriend. So in that sense, it may turn out to be a really good pick if he's going to be called upon to come in and help out if Greg Hardy can't play a game or two or what have you. The third round.
I want to say one more thing about that, and that is that I think it's a great pick. I think, look, I'm almost of the opinion that very little happens to Hardy when it comes to the incident, because the girl isn't going to press charges. This story is really quickly becoming a non-story, and I think that with Hardy and Charles Johnson, Coney Ely will be much better. And I want to ask Ken, Dave Gettleman from New York, with Coney Ely, can we run a NASCAR package like that? Isn't that what they did with that
New York Giants? Yeah. You basically put a bunch of pass rushers in on the line.
You got all defensive ends on the line.
Yeah, that's what a NASCAR package is. And a couple other things is even if nothing happens to Hardy, you've got that third end who's a starting quality end. You can rotate in and out, keep the other guys fresh, keep everybody having fresh legs for that fourth quarter.
Yep.
Right. And if we get an injury, Charles Johnson was injured 2 or 3 games last year.
That's right.
And we really missed him. So you
we're gonna be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
came back in and played in a game and helped you guys. Was it the Patriots game?
Patriots, that's right, Patriots.
Yeah, I remember that well. Your third round pick is, you guys will laugh, but probably the pick that I like the best.
Of course, he was awesome.
That's a great pick.
I thought that you hit it out of the park there. He's a guy. He's not your tackle that everybody thought you should be going out and getting, but you selected a guard and a guy who I thought fell a little bit. So, Ken, I'll start with you. What do you feel? How do you feel about your third round draft pick?
I like him. If you want, you can hit Cat Chronicles. I did a piece right after the draft about doing a redraft with taking the people that were already left on the board and redrafting. And the guard Yankee went in the 4th from Stanford. But the thing is, with guards, interior linemen, especially with the new collective bargaining agreement, when you've got a rookie wage scale, then what the effect does is you actually do draft when you're drafting high, especially you're getting the best player available. You're not worried about paying somebody $50 million anymore.
It definitely does change that. I agree.
And there's certain positions that kind of float to the top at the expense of others. Quarterbacks and pass rushers are overdrafted. They're drafted higher than they used to be. Guards and linebackers have seemed to have fallen. It used to be where a really good guard you get at the end of the first round, or even the middle of the first round. Now, they slip to the second, third, fourth rounds, and so we picked up a starting quality, very good guard, one of the top 3 in the country.
Well, it's kind of interesting though, because last year 2 of the elite guards, the guys who were considered elite guards in the draft, went in the top 10 picks. Of course, the Titans picked 1, and the other guy was picked. The Cardinals, I believe, picked up Jonathan Cooper, who it actually ended up getting injured. So yeah, it's.
There's exceptions though.
I think that offensive line is becoming it's becoming easier to take them higher. I mean, who would have ever thought that? I would have never dreamt that Jeff Fisher would have picked an offensive lineman at number 2 overall, and he picked Greg Robinson.
Well, that's it. That's the thing. The left tackle has become a premium position because you've got your quarterback, you've got to protect your quarterback, and then the pass rushers that come along that you got to protect your quarterback from.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're saying that he's going to play guard this year.
Really? He's a beast, that guard.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah, and then
He's a
possibly
waste of talent at guard, in
and
my
then
opinion.
possibly move to tackle next year. So yeah, we should probably have a show and just talk about that. But we're gonna run out of time if we talk. I could talk offensive linemen like all day because I have a healthy love and respect for the trench guys. So Joe, what about you? How do you feel about Mr. Trey Boston?
I like Trey. I think I think that was a great.
I'm sorry, Trey Turner. I'm sorry, Trey Turner. I meant Trey Turner.
Yeah, we got two Treys in a row.
Yeah. I was getting mixed up.
Turner really is a nasty play till the whistle is blown, kind of I'm gonna kick your butt kind of a guard, which is
he's
great.
A road grader.
Yes, he's got a lot of nasty attitude, and he's just mean. I'll say he's mean, and that's something we need. That's something we need. We need to establish a run game, and we need people to come in and kick somebody's butt. And we did have one particularly injury last year to Amini Siwatubo, who was our starting guard, and he's coming back this year. He's another player that's got a mean streak. So if we can get back to, I think our first option, we love to run the ball.
Yeah.
Pound it on offense, and then
keep pounding.
On defense. That would be our play style, and I really hope Turner's going to help us get back to that style of play.
All right, Tony, your turn.
I love this pick. Best pick of the draft for the Panthers, and maybe the best third-round pick in the entire third round. Maybe he's higher than the two. The only reason he was a third-round pick is he came out and he's a baby. I mean, it's hard to call a man that's 6'2", 315 pounds, and mean as all get out a baby. But he only played 1 year in college, really.
I think he had 20 games that he played in over his whole year, his whole career in college.
Yeah, he didn't do much, and we wondered. We did a lot on our draft show, of why he came out this early, because they're saying if he would have come back and played another year at LSU, he would have been the top guard pick in the whole. He could have been a top 10 pick, or at least a first-round pick. So we were kind of interested in why he came out this early. We love that he fell to the Panthers. And what this tells me right here, we passed on Morgan Moses, like we mentioned just before.
Right.
We didn't jump after a left tackle, and I think it comes down to that when you start picking these guys, even the top guys, that left tackle is such a finesse position. It takes more than these guys have to not only be very athletic, but they have to know how to play with the big boys. And, it's kind of – I don't think we took any real risks in the first 3 rounds. And this guy right here you're going to put him in, and he's going to push guys that were ahead of him on the depth chart already. He's going to be starting.
Yes, he is.
He's going to be starting, and he's going to run. And like I was trying to jump in at one point, is that he does a lot that we don't give him credit for. He pulls real well. He gets to the second level on his blocks. This guy is a top-rate talent that fell, and this is the kind of key pick. If you watch the Panthers draft closely, I don't know how close you watch the actual picks, but Dave Gettleman likes to make it a point to have his pick before our pick starts. The clock starts.
I did not notice that. That's pretty funny.
And they did that last year,
now
too.
Now, bear in mind that Sharona lost her mind with the Titans' first-round draft pick, and so some of the events are a little blurry.
Oh, yeah, fuzzy. But the Panthers, it felt like they tripped over themselves. They fought each other to get up to the podium.
Should have.
Yeah. We're no Minnesota Vikings, all right?
Yeah, right? Yeah, absolutely. We don't have time. Maybe we can do another show. There were a lot of good third-round draft picks. I don't know that I can say that they were that they had the best, because I really liked the Colts getting Dante Moncrief, and there were some other, Chris Borland went in the third round, and some other guys. But I definitely think you hit it out of the park there, and that's an A-plus pick. So, all right.
How about that?
Yeah.
If anything, I'm going to say he was the Panthers' best pick.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So fourth round, and I wanted to talk about this guy a little bit too early. Two Treys, you're right, and this is an entirely different position. Trey
Totally.
Boston. Yeah, Trey Boston. Let's talk about him. Tony, I'll start with you this time.
Uno, dos, tres,
Right.
catorce. Trey Boston is from the UNC Chapel Hill, which is about an hour and a half from where I live at. They're the flagship school of North Carolina. This is a pick. This is probably the worst pick of the draft for the Carolina Panthers. If you want to look at, this is a developmental pick. That's what it is. Is that the guy has some good athletic attributes. He's relatively fast. He can jump relatively pretty high, and he's got pretty good speed. And he's not a small guy, so he has the physical tools. You know, I see him a lot like Mike Mitchell. To me, he seems a lot like Mike Mitchell, and the fact is that Mike Mitchell was very raw when he came out of college.
Yeah,
That's why
I think that's a great comparison. Yep.
They gave the Raiders a lot of hell for this, is that he needs development. And on top of him needing development just as a player, UNC Chapel Hill's college program is a mess. They had a cheating scandal that got Butch Davis fired. They had a revolving door of defensive coaches. The guy played almost every defensive position. He went from like safety to corner to all over the place. And in that, he still led the team in tackles, which isn't saying much for a team that gave up a ton of yards. I don't know why we made this pick, really. I don't know what they saw in him other than I think they just saw his physical attributes and that he kind of has a nose for the ball. He had 4 or 5.
Where do you think he's going to play? Where do you think that he projects to play?
I don't know. Kim would be better to answer this. Is that I think he's a strong safety guy that gets in the box more, right? Isn't the strong safety the one that gets down and tries to get up against the run rather than the free?
Yeah. And I
so that's what I said.
If I could take over, I'll expound on what Tony said a little bit.
Sure.
This move, I think, was, I don't want to say a panic move by the Panthers because I know that they had their eyeball on somebody else, but I think it was the Browns jumped in front of them in a trade and picked the guy that they were looking at.
Is that Pierre
Go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, the Seer.
Yeah.
That's right. The Panthers were going to get him. That's who I believe the Panthers were targeting.
I was so pissed the Titans passed on him, and they picked, who did they pick? Marcus and Huff.
They had their eye on him, on the Seer. Yeah. He left, so they were already in defensive back mode. So they went and they got Boston, and I think Boston has potential. In college, he was a run supporting safety. It's really what he did best. And the other thing I like about him is he contributed significantly on special teams. He was on punt return, kick returns. He played a lot of special teams. Even as an upperclassman, he still contributed on special teams. And I think the Panthers see him in that sort of a role where he'd come in, contribute on special teams a couple of years, and then much like Mike Mitchell, maybe in 2-3 years, get on the field and start earning some playing time.
Yeah. Yeah, where the Raiders really messed up, I mean, they so overdrafted Mike Mitchell it wasn't even funny. Kim, what about you? How do you feel about Trey Boston?
I'm kind of the same idea. He's probably not. He's probably the worst of all the picks. In the 4th round, he's really not much of a value. I think maybe Gettleman panicked a little bit once Desir was gone. Maybe he got caught without a plan B or plan C or whatever it is. But he is not the athlete that Mike Mitchell is. Let me put that on the table right now.
Okay.
He's just not. He runs like a 4.6, 4.5, 4.56, something like that. He's just not, doesn't have the foot speed. He's average athletically, I'd say. He struggles making tackles in space. That's probably why he's best suited for the strong safety spot, because he is a physical player, and if he gets Joey had said before, If he gets his hands on you, he'll tackle you. But the problem there is getting his hands on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he'll take bad angles sometimes. He's still got he still seems to be kind of raw. Just to me. But on the other hand, he will contribute on special teams as a blocker or gunner. On the outside. So we're going to get some use out of him. And I think the idea is to help get rid of Godfrey, Charles Godfrey down the road.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, when you're in the corner.
Well, I was just going to say the other thing is when going back to Ely, I saw this straight away. Is Gettleman's going to use him as contract leverage against the Kraken and Mario Addison when their contracts are up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So it's Gettleman takes a multi-year picture.
And he should. I completely am on board with that.
I'm just pointing out he's getting the money situation under control too.
Yeah, that makes sense. There are a couple more picks that I definitely want to get to, but I think this is a good opportunity to have this discussion. And I believe Tony and I had the discussion when we were doing the pre-draft show. In an average class, and by average I say a team that has pretty much at least their regular complement of draft picks, 6, 7, maybe an extra draft pick, an extra comp pick or whatever. How many starters should a team expect to get out of that class? Ken, I'll start with you.
Well, if you're Jacksonville, all of them.
Well played.
I should say quality starters.
Yeah.
I like Jacksonville draft, by the way.
Yeah, I do too, actually. Realistically speaking, 2 to 3 starters.
That's what
You'll get 2 to 3 starters, a couple of guys that'll be good solid bench players that'll come in for depth, and then you'll get your last guys will be fighting for that end of the roster, end of the bench thing.
Practice squad.
Guys that need to excel on special teams in order to justify keeping them around. So that's kind of how that works.
Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. I'd say 2 to 3, and it depends. If you can draft a guy and he starts right away, I mean, I think you got something to brag about there. But looking, in a longer term picture, 2 to 3 seems more than. If you have 3 starters in one draft, I think you've had a good draft.
I think so too. I would agree with that. Tony, what do you think? Did we have this discussion?
I can't remember, to be honest. I think we did, and I think everybody kind of settles. They take the 2 to 3. I think the answer is 2. In a regular draft, you get 2 starters, and you get 2 guys that are going to cycle in. I think in this draft, the answer should have been 3, and having your 4th round guy being a guy that can contribute significantly. This draft had so much depth at wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, I really feel like, Bruce Ellington, didn't he go in the 4th?
No. Yeah, I think he did. I think he did go in the 49ers. Yeah.
So when you got guys that are running a 4-4 that are explosive offensive players going in the 4th round, you complement them in the right team. I think that you get a starter right there. So I think the typical answer is 2. You get 2 starters, and then you get picks 3 and 4. Hopefully, just can see the field and contribute. This draft, I'm upset if we don't get our top 3 in there a lot. And on our team, Coney Ely isn't going to start, so you can already just go ahead and say we get 2. We're only going to get 2 starters.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's a starting quality guy. If somebody goes down, you're not going to lose that much if he goes down.
True.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I say 2, if not 3, and then you should have your 4th round, your 3rd and your 4th round picks should be either guys who are going to rotate in or guys who are going to play significantly on special teams, and be guys that if you're called upon to insert them in the lineup can play. They might not be the the guy that they're replacing, at least not initially, but should be a guy that can be depended on to come in and take care of the position that he's drafted to play. So, your later round draft picks, that's where you make. That's really where you make your team. That's where the back end of your team should come from. That's where your kind of your core players are going to come from. So. All right, well, let's go to the 5th round. If you might hear it storming a little bit here. Hopefully we won't lose power. This is Tennessee after all. Your 5th round draft pick, Ken, I'm going to go back to you. I am probably going to completely screw up this guy's name, so I'm going to let you do it.
Well, his name is Benny Benwickair.
Okay.
I think that's how it's pronounced. Everybody's
quarterback out of San Jose State.
Yeah, that's who Tony signs about in the background. I call him the Fed chief because he's Yankee. But yeah, this guy, he's like you're talking about people in this area a little bit developmental. He's got a lot of polish to apply, but the physical skills are there. And we actually traded up to get him, which kind of goes back to that Pierre Desir who we wanted and didn't get. And so I think Gettleman said, "All right, quit messing around here.
Not going to lose out on another guy."
Yeah, and go ahead and trade up, get the guy we want, be done with it. And when we're facing a lot of teams with 6'5" receivers, we're not the only one. Tampa Bay's got 2 of them now.
Yeah, I was going to point out to Tony that I played general manager for the Bucs, and I picked Mike Evans on our
You had
show.
a great draft. Yes, you did. Yes, you
All right.
did.
I'm sorry, Ken. I just had to throw that out to Tony.
That's all right. I just was saying you got Mike Evans, you got Vincent Jackson, both, and you can only cover one guy with the Fed chief. So, but he's got this huge vertical leap. So, at least and he is a ball hawk. I'll say that much for him. He's a ball hawk. He's got a good nose for the ball. He plays the ball well in the air. So, he's going to play taller than he is. He's like 5'11", I think.
6 foot 5'11", yeah, right around there.
Right in there. But with that 41-inch vertical, if he can track the ball, then he can get up and interfere with guys that are, 6'4", 6'5", that can go up and get the ball at the high point. So, he's going to contest some of those jump balls, and really that's all you can ask for, especially at if you're not getting a guy like Stanley Jean-Baptiste, who was in the 2nd round. That guy from Nebraska is 6'2", 6'3", and he's got a 42-inch vertical.
And he's 220 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
That's the freak of the draft there.
When we're talking about Sticky Wicky, which is the nickname, that's the nickname that we've given him.
That's good to know. I like it.
And he likes it, too. He responded to us on Twitter that he likes it.
All right.
That's 14 interceptions in college career. 14 interceptions in college. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
That's pretty impressive. Sure, it was in whatever conference it is. I'm not even sure. But, he's got a nose for the ball. And in the OTAs that have been going on recently, Ron Rivera made a comment on 2 very good plays that he has made. So he's already impressing coaches.
Yeah. All right. Tony, do you want to add anything about Sticky Wicky?
I do. I love Sticky Wicky. I will admittedly say that because I'm an East Coast kid, I did not know very much about him. And that kind of showed in our moderate draft grades, where we gave him a good draft grade, but it wasn't like exceptional. But I think we gave him a B. The fact is that Gettleman raced on this guy. He was not going to let happen what happened to him in the previous round with Pierre Desir. So we traded up and we got rid of a 7th round pick that we probably would be fighting for a roster spot anyway, and we got the guy we wanted. And when you look at this guy, he plays immensely well in zone coverage.
Mhm.
He's strong right now. He has the 42-inch vertical leap. He's not the fastest. He's got a 4.6 40, right? But it's not slow. And when you have that 42-inch or the 41-inch vertical leap, that means you really run like a 4.5 because you can jump the extra tenth of a second to catch up with whatever receiver's running the 4.4. He pressed 15 on the bench. He's been exceptional in training camp. And when you look at this guy, when you follow, just see what he's a family kid. He's been really excited about graduating college. He seems to
Those
do
are
the
guys
right.
that are so easy to root for, aren't they?
They are.
Exactly.
And here's one other element too. He played high school in wherever it was in
Los
California.
Angeles. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, and he played against Marquise Lee. He played against two other guys, which I can't remember the names off my top of my head. Richardson. That three guys are in the NFL now. That he wanted to be a receiver originally, and he had to move to cornerback. So he's been playing these guys. He's been in top-rate talent. I think this might be.
You know that is the Richard Sherman route to greatness.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman was a wide receiver, and
Right. And a 5th-round pick, wasn't he?
yeah, but he figured out in college that there were very few guys like him who were playing defensive back. I was fortunate enough to work on an interview with him that was simply fantastic. So yeah, I think this guy is very exciting.
Yeah, we're happy about this, and I think that we would have been pleasant. We would have been happy if he was our 4th-round pick and Trey Boston was our 5th.
Right.
I think there's more excitement around Sticky Wicky than there is against Boston, and that Joey painted his room for Trey Boston. So
Oh, there you go. All right, let's talk about the last draft pick really quick, and then we'll do some talk about the NFC South and talk about the NFL draft in general. Tyler Gaffney, a running back from Stanford. What are your thoughts on that? Tony, I'll start with you this time.
I think this is a quality pick at the end. You got a guy that has been in professional sports before. He played for the Pittsburgh Pirates baseball, comes back and plays to football. He had, you almost say, why are we going to pick a running back? All we got is running backs. We picked Kenyon Barner. This is a real NFL running back. It's not that finally, I guess, the guys have just said, let's just go back to the basics. A dude that's just going to run right at you, that's going to hit the hole and just go. He had 1,700 yards in college, kind of an insane number. You got to like the pick. I don't know how tall he is. I need to probably look that up.
I've got it right here. He is 6'1", 221.
Wow, okay. So, you know what? That makes him even better in my eyes right away.
And I think he scored 20 touchdowns last year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, those are wow numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a great move for the Panthers because you got a question mark with Jonathan Stewart and his health. D'Angelo Williams is hitting that magic number of 30. Running backs start to trend downward when they hit 30. Kenyon Barner has been nothing but a bust since he came. Really, Mike Tolbert is the real only guy you can 100% count on. And this guy, Tyler Gaffney, looks like he's going to be able to be plugged right in. He can block well, which is a big thing that running backs have a problem adjusting to in the NFL. He's an adept at that already. So we've got something happening there, I believe.
All right. Okay, Ken, you finish us off there on that, and then we'll talk some grades.
Yeah, he's a between the tackles runner. He's got good hands. He also, from what I understand, is ahead of the curve picking up the blitz. And that picking up the blitz is a major deal coming from college to the NFL, because in college you're not facing those complex defenses that you do in the NFL. In college, you go to practice maybe, however long it is, per week, but in the
20
He's
hours
NFL,
a week.
He's coming
yeah, in
from
the
a
NFL,
smart
that's your whole.
system that is producing some really good NFL talent right now,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in the lower rounds. And Doug Baldwin, who just got a 3-year extension from the Seattle Seahawks, was undrafted.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I like the pick. I think it's a good pick.
Well, Rod Smith was undrafted too, and he only had 11,000 yards in his career with the Denver Broncos. So
Yeah, but Gaffney's a good.
Victor Cruz is a guy who was undrafted. Gettleman got him his last year in New York. So, this isn't over with yet. He might still find a gem in undrafted free agency. But back to Gaffney, what you've got is a guy who's powerful between the tackles. He runs 4.5, so he's not going to really, go to the house that much. But he's got enough speed that he can break some long runs. He can catch. He can block. He can pick up the blitz. So he's a 3-down back. And when you've got, we talk about a crowded backfield, it's not as crowded as people might think. Joey mentioned Kenyon Barner can't stay on the field. Also, we've got Jonathan Stewart, who got paid and then can't play. Hurt himself. D'Angelo Williams, I think, is turning 31 by the time the season rolls around, so he's getting some tread on, some wear on the tires.
Mm-hmm.
So really, the I guess the main guy we have right now is Tolbert, and I'd like to see Tolbert as fullback blocking for Gaffney at 220, 225 pounds in like an elephant backfield. That's your power running game. This whole Panthers draft, what we did is we tried to help fix the secondary, and then we drafted to our strengths. In a nutshell, That's our draft.
All right, let's do some grades. Let's grade. Ken, I'll start with you. Give me an overall grade for the Panthers draft, and give me your favorite draft pick this year.
Overall grade, I think I said C+. There were a couple in there, especially like I said with the first round pick. I'm not, I don't think he's, we differ about it, but I just don't think he's the safe pick with the huge ceiling everybody seems to think he has. He might, but there's just too much of a question there. My favorite pick is probably between Trey Turner and Coney Ely. I probably would lean towards Coney Ely just because of having that third pass rusher. If something happens to one of them, we're not like, oh hell, there goes everything. If we lose a guard, we can find a serviceable guard. But the thing is, with Turner, we've got Edmund Kadbila coming back. He was a rookie last year, didn't see the field, so we don't know a whole lot about him yet. Amini's Tolu, he got hurt in training camp, but he had slimmed down a little bit, and he was looking good when he got hurt. He's probably going to nail down that left side.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have a really good interior line. It's just, the tackles that we're going to have question marks about. So you can't address everything that you need in the draft, though.
All right, Joe, you're up now. Give me your grade and your favorite pick.
I'm going to say the grade I'm giving out is a C. I wish we would have done a couple of things different. I think it would have been better had we been able to grab this year. I would have liked to have seen that. One pick away. I mean, we were so close. And then my favorite pick, I would say, probably Sticky Wicky. I like the nickname.
I'm warming to it too.
He's sticks in coverage.
All right, Tony.
I'm going to give it a B, or even leaning towards B+. And I know that sounds crazy, and it sounds crazy since I was a mess on draft night. I
really
think
like you like the first and second round picks a lot better, I think, than the other people on this panel. But that's all right.
I think I'm giving it I'm giving it time to pan out. I think that Trey Boston is really the one that's got the biggest question mark around him as a player. But other than that, is that I think what we tend to do as fans and analysts or whatever I'm not an analyst, I'm just a fan, but when you look at it, I think we get so enamored with these positions of need that we kind of overlook. We actually act like our positions of strength are really strong, and it never hurts to add another big boy in the middle to run block. It never hurts to add Coney Ely. I think that picks 2, 3, and 5, and even 6 are just pretty strong picks.
So who's your favorite? Who's your favorite?
I think it's Trey Turner. I think that he is, I think you give him one more year in college, and he is a second or first or second round pick. And we got him. We'll do the development. We'll work on that. We get 5 years to do it, right, with the new CBA, where don't you get to give them the 5th-year option and stuff like that?
Option, yeah.
Yeah, so we got plenty of time to develop them. I think that I'm just moderately pleased. If anything I'm upset with is that I would have gone a different order in rounds 1 and 2 of what we were trying to tackle in need, and I would have gone with Bradley Roby and then tried to grab a receiver in the second.
Okay. All right, now let's just talk in the NFC South in general. Give me your biggest winners in the NFC South and how you feel the Panthers did relative to the division. Tony, I'll start with you.
I think that almost this, when we start talking about the context of our division, that's when I want to actually lower my grade for the Panthers, because our divisional rivals did very well in the draft, and they seem to do what everybody's drafting for our division. Well, they're drafting positions that provide nightmare matchups for other guys that they got to play twice a year. You look to, I'm really upset that New Orleans got Brandon Cooks. I said it from the very beginning. I said if Brandon Cooks go to New Orleans, I don't know how you stop that. You put him on turf with Drew Brees, it's an unstoppable thing. Your pick in the first round is GM of Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. How do you stop that alongside of Vincent Jackson? I think everybody did well. I think that the NFC South is going to beat each other to death.
Yeah, even more so than normal, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I like New Orleans' second-round pick about as much as I did their first-round pick. I tend to agree with you. I thought the NFC South overall had very strong drafts. Joe, what about you? How do you feel about how the Panthers did relative to their division rivals?
Well, I mean, if you look at the way the draft played out, the Panthers having won the division, we get to pick last of all the division opponents, of everyone in the division. So the fact that you had the Bucs picking so early, the Falcons picking so early, you knew they were going to get good players. I mean, you knew they were going to get some top-notch, players that were out there. And then the rest of the draft was a question mark, but they did really well. I think Atlanta drafted all defensive players -1, I believe. I think they got all defensive players.
That's what they needed.
That is what they needed. Their defense was awful. Their defense was just awful.
The first-round draft pick was an offensive tackle.
Right, and then everybody else was defense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that they definitely had a good draft. Saints drafted well, and the Bucs, they got some weapons that they needed. So in comparison to the rest of the division, I would probably, going in order of first through last, I would probably say the Panthers I don't want to say the worst draft, but the least good draft. How about that?
I like it.
Well, we are the champs.
Right. So
to be the best, you got to beat the best, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Ken, what about you?
Well, I look at drafts in a little bit different way. Like Joey said, when you're drafting in the top 10, you're going to get good players. That's how it works. But what I look at is value as much as need. And if you can get a guy at a position of need at a with a good value, say like in the third or fourth or fifth round, then that's a great pick. And with that said, I think maybe Carolina's draft might be a little bit understated because of the fact that we got a first-round pick in Ely in the second round. In fact, if they had gone Ely and then Benjamin first and then second, then I would probably feel a lot better about it. So
yeah, we would be jumping up and down.
We could have got Kelvin in a second. That would have been great.
Yeah, but we took him in the first, so we'll never know. But we do know that we got Ely in the second. So we got a couple of guys that fell. So I like that, but those first two picks that the Saints got are just scary good. Brandon Cooks in the slot, and I've already talked about Stanley Jean-Baptiste, who also was a receiver at one point. He actually has a lot of similarities to Richard Sherman, and he's more athletic, and that's scary.
Yeah, he's scary.
So, I mean, if we got, we get Benjamin, and then they get a guy that can blanket cover him, well, you've just negated our first pick with your second. So, and then you've got Brandon Cooks. It's really hard to say because Atlanta, they took Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews for that left tackle spot to help, with the pass rush against people like us. They went the rest defense, except they did get a running back, I think, in the fourth or fifth round. Devontae Freeman from Florida State.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. I had forgotten about him.
That's right.
And they do need running backs.
Yeah, right. Another position of need, yes. Yeah.
So, I think everybody had a pretty good draft. If I had to rank them, I would say probably New Orleans had the best. I think Tampa Bay had the worst because they went all offense. I mean, all offense. They didn't get a single defensive player.
But
So
they
they're
loaded up. They loaded up on defense and free agency, though.
They did. They got
And
Michael
last
Johnson.
year,
Yeah, and they got Deshaun Golson, and they loaded up on people in the secondary. But the thing is, there always comes a
linebacker.
and you've got to stagger these things. You can't just have everybody come in, with their contracts at the same time, because that'll blow up your salary cap at some point.
We know all about that.
Yeah, we do, and you've got to stagger. You've got to stagger your talent, so if you lose one guy at a position, it's not going to kill you. You still have one or two guys left, so it's an art as much as it is a science.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch how obviously draft grades are incredibly premature at this point, but I think they're fun, and so I'm glad that we had some time to do that. The hour always goes by so incredibly fast. I want to thank all you guys for joining me to talk about the Panthers and to talk about the draft. I wish we'd had some time to talk about your thoughts on the NFL draft in general, but maybe we'll get a chance before training camps really heat up to have you guys come back on and we can talk a little bit more about the draft and maybe get your thoughts on the AFC, how the AFC did in relation to the NFC and do a little bit more grading. But I want to let you guys come back in and tell everybody who you are and where they can find you. Ken, I'll start with you.
Okay. Ken Dye, Twitter handle @Ken_Dye, DYE. Lead writer at CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Of course, on Facebook as Ken Dye. So I'm the one with the picture. My dad's the one without the picture. Same name.
Joe?
All right, I'm Joey Riollano, a.k.a. the freaking Puerto Rican, a.k.a. Big Tasty. And you can catch me on Twitter @Joe Riollano, co-founder of CarolinaCatChronicles.com, and we love the Panthers, we love talking Panthers, and we love coming on to talk with Sharona.
Well, I definitely want you guys to come back. Tony?
Co-founder CarolinaCatChronicles.com, aka the Professor. You got to check us out. We're big on Twitter at cat_chronicles, and I got to put in 2 plugs right here. Number 1, we've got a fantasy football league coming up on our website. We want everybody. The more teams, the better. We're going to have a lot of prizes. We're going to have a jersey given away. We're going to have weekly prizes. So that's going to be open to all. And also, please check out our podcast if you're interested in the Carolina Panthers. And you can hear how we're going to deal with Brandon Cooks. We talked about how he will be blown up over the middle, and that's the way to handle that. Okay. So check us out, CarolinaCatChronicles.com. A lot of stuff going on right now, even maybe a Madden challenge in the works.
Well, we definitely have to have you guys come back because you mentioned the magic word fantasy football. We're going to have to talk some fantasy football too. Thanks again, guys, for joining me. It was a great show, as always. I am Sharona. You can follow me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. This is the Extra Point. We come to you live every Friday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, from the National Gridiron Network, www.nationalgridironnetwork.com. Be sure to check that out. And stay tuned for next week. We'll be talking more AFC South and NFC South. But in the meantime, have a great Friday night and a wonderful weekend.